And welcome to Just One More Watch. Welcome today to my review of what may well be the best bang per buck watches that you've never heard of. Or perhaps that should be punch per pound, as this is a British company. Of course, I am projecting a little, perhaps you had heard of them, but I hadn't up until about 6 weeks ago when I got an email from the brand. However, I had heard of the company who makes them. Remember this review from a couple of years ago? A special edition rotary dive watch released in conjunction with a store in the north of England, a bricks and mortar store called Watch Nation. Well, Watch Nation have now decided to release their own brand, Cestrian watches. I've got two for review today, one from their Dive series, which is pretty self-explanatory, and one from their Master series, which is a classic Gada watch. Now, you saw the pop-up. This video is sponsored by Watch Nation / Cestrian. I will therefore leave a link to their websites in the description of the video. Perhaps there's nothing too radical on display here today, but these Cestrians undercut the prices of Seikos and Orients and have better specs than either. Let's flip the camera and have a look at them. Okay, two quite different watches to rattle through today. Not much in common visually, but I think what they have in common is they're both excellent value. It's £150 for the Dive series and £135 for what they call the Master series, the go anywhere, do anything, everyday all-rounder. Those, I think, are great prices, particularly if you live in the UK because you're not paying any further taxes or duties. But can we just dispel one thing right away? These watches are not redefining luxury. There are overreaches, and then there's claiming you are redefining luxury for £135. The question for us today is, in fact, are they redefining affordable? I think that is much more appropriate. So, let's go. I'm going to start with the Dive series. I suspect this will be the most popular of the two. Nice simple box, black, white and orange colour scheme, and when you open the box you get a bit more orange with that cushion. You also get two spare links after it's sized up for my 7-inch wrist, and in a real positive, a 2-year international warranty. Now these are not expensive watches as discussed, that is a welcome addition. You can see my thumb approves. Now, I asked for this orange dialed version. It is rather similar to the rotary that I reviewed a couple of years ago, to be honest. Perhaps a little bit generic in design overall, this one, but then again, that can be viewed as a positive. It's not going to upset anybody. So these are the vital statistics. 42mm in diameter, 13.8mm thick, 48 lug to lug, which is fairly wearable, 22mm across the lugs, sized up for me with those links removed, a robust 170 grams. Please note this one has 300 meters of water resistance, which is nice, sapphire crystal covering the dial, and it's powered by a Seiko NH35. Think Samurai, think Orient Kano for an idea of how this one wears on wrist. Like I said, nothing too radical with the way it looks. I believe those indices are embossed. The one at 12 is the Cestrian logo, a kind of split shield. There's a frame around the date complication at 3. Indices are lume filled, I'll show you that in just a minute. Slightly Tudor Ranger-esque high polished silver hands with a bevel down the middle and a lollipop tip to the second hand. There's an angled chapter ring with minute markers, and you can see that everything lines up nicely. Something you cannot always say with some of this watch's main competitors, who shall remain nameless. It's a 120 click dive time bezel, the action was fine by the way, and it's a scratch proof ceramic insert to match the scratch proof sapphire. And I do like this colour, it's a nice shade of orange. Like I said, the hands and indices are lume filled. I don't think this one's going to win any episodes of Lume Wars, but it's not embarrassing or disappointing. Perhaps not on a par with Seiko or Orient though, but I think this one makes up for that with some of the other specs found in different areas. Case finish is pretty simple, high polished sides, note the downturn though, which is good for smaller wrists. Upper lug surfaces are brushed, there's plenty of grip on the bezel too, as you can see there. Now the bracelet has female end links for a good fit, and the screw down crown is interesting, shall we say. It also has the Cestrian logo there, set in a large plastic cabochon. The bracelet is that Jubileer style, half engineer, half flat Jubilee. Therefore, as far as I can tell, those are 5 separate links, but they're not articulated, so this one doesn't rattle or jangle. The clasp is pretty basic. I'm sure you've seen this 100 times before. Brand name etched into the fold over, double pushers, pressed upper, milled scissor, 3 holes of micro adjustment. The case back is screw on and features a display window showing off the NH35. If you've seen 100 of those clasps, you've seen 1,000 of these movements. 24 joule hacking and hand winding, 40-hour power reserve, tolerances anywhere between -30 and +40 seconds per day. They are, however, a rock solid choice for this money. And on wrist, the watch also feels rock solid. Definitely chunky, but not ridiculous. You can see that case curving nicely to fit me. Legibility is excellent from the high shot and the low shot. There's some nice contrast between the orange dial and the black bezel insert too. The whole thing feels like a no-nonsense watch that will take a bit of a beating if you are so inclined. Pocket shot to finish, I couldn't quite get the right fit for me though, so I'm wearing this one slightly loose. 170 grams is weighty but not ridiculous, so that's fine. Alright, mini moans and niggles. For the price they're charging, this is actually really good. There are no fundamental problems. First thing I'd upgrade though is the clasp. A bigger, heavier clasp would help the watch sit better on wrist and give more flexibility in terms of sizing than this one does with just 3 holes. That's the first thing I recommend if they do a Cestrian Dive Series Mark II. The next thing I'd recommend is changing the crown. This one is large and unattractive. It sticks out further than it needs to. It's just generally a bit weird. Overall though, a really solid budget diver. You can tell an experienced retailer is behind this. It has fantastic on paper appeal with those specs for that money, and it doesn't disappoint in hand either. Having said all that, I think I prefer the Master Series. I'm a sucker for these go anywhere, do anything style watches, and the fact that you can pick up one of these for £135, this thing is just great value. Packaging is identical, as is the warranty. I had to remove 3 links, so even bigger wrists will have no problem at all getting a good fit with this one. It's a classic 40-20, so 40mm in diameter with 20mm lug width. Lug to lug is a really nice 45, and it's bang on 12mm thick. That is a very appealing set of dimensions for this style of watch. Weight is 132 grams with those links removed. It has the GADA standard 100 meters of water resistance from a push-pull crown, flat sapphire covering the dial, and is also powered by the Seiko NH35. It also has some lume, which I think is essential for a go anywhere, do anything 24/7 style piece, and tri-coloured lume no less for £135. When I turn the speed up, the budget price tag does become noticeable. It doesn't last amazingly well, but it's a lot of fun initially and not too bad overall. Really nice case profile on this one, angled mid case plus a short lug to lug plus female end links plus a nicely integrated angled bezel. This one will just slip under a cuff if you're the type of person who wears a cuff, that is. Mixture of brushed and polished. There's a nice chamfer running from lug tip to lug tip. The crown also has the logo on it, but it's much more discreet than the carbuncle on the Diver. The bracelet's pretty basic, but it does the job, 3-link oyster style. The outer links are brushed, the centre link is polished. Female end links, always such a good idea though. Push pins hold it all together, which is fine. It's a simple clasp, very reminiscent of the one on the Seiko Sarb. It even has the same 2 holes of micro adjustment and slight overhang from the tail end. The case back is screw on and has a display window, allowing you to stare mindlessly at the mainspring and balance wheel all day long rather than doing what it is you are supposed to be doing. On wrist, it is a super easy watch to wear. The dimensions and the case profile see to that. 12mm thickness for anything Seiko powered is pretty good, and you can see how well it sits on me here. Legibility is again fine. Silver hands on black dial always works pretty well. The date wheel is large enough for single digits, but might start to get a bit tricky for double digits without a Cyclops. At 135 grams, I have no problem wearing this one loose below the knuckle, as you can see from the pocket shot. What are my complaints about this one then? Well, materially, I think it is more than sufficient considering the price. My only complaints are centred on the dial and the handset. I think there's perhaps a bit too much going on here. It would have looked cleaner with singles rather than doubles at the 6 and the 9. I don't need to be told the watch is automatic, so that line of text could have gone as well. And the hands are slightly awkwardly proportioned. Either the hour hand needs to be thicker or the minute hand needs to be thinner. It has all the right specs, this one, for a killer price tag, but it doesn't quite have the killer looks to match, I don't think. But overall, the complaints I've had about both of these watches are pretty minor. I've had a number of you get in touch with me already by email to tell me how happy you are with your Cestrian watches. Now I can see why. Redefining luxury? Definitely not. Redefining affordability? Quite possibly. So there you have it, two very solid offerings for the price they're charging, particularly if you are in the UK and therefore are avoiding import taxes. The Dive series is good, but they need to sort out the crown. It's the Master series that stands out for me, a real all-rounder and a genuine alternative to Seiko, Orient or the AliExpress stuff for the same price. While you're here, you really should check out the review of the Rotary, shouldn't you? And I think the closest watch in terms of specs and price to this Dive series, the Orient Kano. Thanks for watching this one. I'll see you again in a future video, I hope.